Part 1. I'm Judith Judy Mason, 63. Calvin is my only son. He married into the Pierce clan. Old money, cold manners. The night they sealed it, the Whitfield Club smelled like lilies and dry ice, and my place card was tucked behind a ficus near the service hall. I didn't argue. I watched. The mic squealed. Meredith Pierce took the stage with a tremble cued for effect. "A regrettable situation," she said, her platinum and diamond cuff, insured for $90,000, gone missing from the bridal suite. She invited cooperation. Eyes turned like a flock. One of Sloane's friends pointed toward the corridor I'd used for the restrooms. Meredith walked straight to me with 2 hotel security guards. "Bag," she said. I set it on the linen. Lipstick, tissues, wallet, bus card, a photo of Calvin at 6, gap-toothed and sticky-faced. No jewelry, no apology either. Sloane floated in, whispering about upsetting the guests. Calvin stood behind them and said, "Just let them check, Mom." Then I asked for the one tradition that still meant anything. One dance with the groom. "Later," he said. Later never showed. "Look at me," I told him, quiet enough for just us. He said I was making a scene. I lifted a hand to stop the words. He panicked, stepped in, and slapped me. The ballroom went mute. Meredith pulled him back like a handler easing a prize dog from a ring. "You should go," she said. I left the small photo on the tablecloth and walked out through valet into the night. Cash Motel. Bolt lock. Shower. Next morning, I opened my aunt's file. A pair of rental deeds, a ladder of municipal bonds, a modest brokerage account grown fat through time and boredom. People thought I lived on diner tips and bleach. They didn't know about Aunt Marion. I called my attorney, restored my legal name to Judith M. Mason, listed the smaller duplex, and moved 3 counties over into a furnished condo facing cranes and water. I dialed an old contact from years of scrubbing banquet stainless, Everett Cole, owner of Meridian West Events, art genius, payroll disaster. "Investors want dashboards," he said. "I'll be your dashboard," I said. "And your capital." I wired $450,000 for 49% and planted myself in operations. I learned load-in windows, florals by stem count, generator amps, RF etiquette, penalty clauses, and how to kill a dying timeline with a 3-minute string interlude. I learned which hotels comp linens, which chefs won't, which photographers trip breakers, which families think dishwashers are invisible. 2 years in, Everett wanted out. We papered a clean buyout. I took 76%, gave him a consulting retainer, hired a controller with a spine, and built a bench. Lighting lead who counts by lumens, logistics captain who tapes every cable, head server who can inventory flatware by sound. Meridian West became Atlas Meridian. Clean books, brutal call sheets, quiet perfection. We staged dinners where a table cost the price of a compact car, and no one asked why the coffee tasted better than air. Year 8, the big contract. Summit of private capital. 200 invitation only, 5 million target for pediatric oncology. Venue? Windridge Conservatory, a glass house on a hill that says yes twice a year and never to amateurs. They said yes to us because 3 seasons back, I had a generator craned in at cost during a storm and never bragged about it. We built the night like a watch. Pearl uplights down the palm aisle, chamber ensemble on a low riser, 7-course service with 1 hot line and 1 cold, escort cards with embedded donation QR, valet choreography mapped to minute marks. I wrote the master call sheet in 10-minute blocks, then cut it to 5s where it mattered. At 5:58 p.m., first headlights. At 6:12, Meredith Pierce stepped out of a black sedan in emerald silk with a diamond river at her throat. She breezed past me at the door. No recognition. Good. Recognition happens on my clock. Everything hit. Amuse at 6:45, paddle raise at 8:10, personal story at 8:22. Lights dipped a shade as the harpist softened the room. At 9:05, Vivian, the foundation director, took the mic, thanked Atlas Meridian, pulled me up, and announced my 100,000 match for closing gifts. Phones rose. I gave them 3 seconds of smile, 1 nod, and stepped off, back to work. Meredith found me at the fern wall by service. Ms. Mason, she said, narrowing her eyes. You spoke at my table once, I said. Different room. Louder accusation. Something moved behind her face. She stopped. Nah, Judith Mason, I said. Owner, investor, grandmother of 2 I rarely see. Color drained. The cuff. Found in your car console 2 days later, I said. Your driver told the valet captain. I read the statement a year after. You never called. We couldn't find. You weren't looking, I said. Relax. I'm not here to ruin you. I run rooms. Tonight is flawless. Keep your seat, keep your face, tip your driver. After that, carry your own story. What do you want? She asked. Nothing, I said. Silence is enough. 10 minutes later, the pledge meter slid past 6 million. I signed off the strike plan and walked the perimeter. By the parking lane, a security lead lifted his head. Cap brim shadowed his eyes, but the jawline was mine. Calvin. He came careful, hands open, earpiece tucked. Mom. It landed between plea and fact. I don't answer to that from you, I said. Not here. Sloane's gone, he said. I'm working. It's thin. 18 months sober. He showed the chip the way men show receipts. Can we talk? Somewhere not like this? You struck me and let a room watch, I said. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a line. I was a coward. Set the terms. I'll meet them. Terms? None, I said. You don't meet me. You meet adulthood. Pay your rent. Keep your hands open. Never raised. I don't fund. I don't fix. If you have a family someday that knows respect, they can sit at my table. You stand on your own 2 feet. He didn't bargain. He nodded once. Understood, he said. No more messages. Good, I said. We're finished for tonight. Inside, the orchestra landed the final chord. Guests drifted to valet, soft with wine and generosity. Meredith lingered by the orchids, then left without comment. Radios crackled. House lights to 30, I called. Clear back, Doc. The crew flowed. We broke the room in 90. Linens bagged, glassware crated, cables coiled, floors mopped to a square shine. I signed vendor sheets, photographed counts, locked the cabinet, rolled the call sheet into the archive tube. Home. Pass on a hook. 1 new card in my desk. No rescues. No cosigns. No public scenes. Private truth once. In the morning, I mailed a quiet check to cover an equipment overage. No posts. I don't post. I send confirmations. 3 days later. Got full-time at Harborview Security. No ask. Just data. Calvin. I texted back. Noted. Sloane posed on an island. Meredith tagged Atlas Meridian in a thank you. I screenshotted both and opened the next load-in. I disappeared when a ballroom chose spectacle over respect. I returned with contracts, capital, and a team that hits its marks. I don't torch reputations. I set the lights, write the rules, and decide who gets in the room. Read the sign, cross the bridge. If you can't, reroute. my ledger balances. My nights end on time. Part 2. Monday after the summit, I opened the Atlas Meridian archive and built a new binder. Pierce Incidents. Tabs. Wedding, contact log, online, law. I printed the valet captain's note about the cuff found in Meredith's console, highlighted the date, and slid it under a transparent sleeve. Paper beats memory. By noon, a patrol knock. Welfare check. Anonymous tip says an elder in distress. I smiled, handed over my capacity letter from Dr. Patel and the neatly labeled contact log. The officer took one look at my calendar grid, the toolbox lined by socket size, and chuckled. Someone's playing games, Ms. Mason. We flagged my address for nuisance calls. Incident number went to the binder. Meredith posted a breathy recap that praised visionary partners and tagged Atlas Meridian. I screenshotted it, archived it, and kept working. I don't clap online. I reconcile. At 3:10 p.m., Calvin texted, "No ask, just data," with a photo of his Harborview badge. I responded with one word, "Noted." Then I set my policy in the old family thread, the one no one used since the wedding. Effective immediately. Communication by text, email only. No drop-ins. Appointments only. No loans, gifts, or cosigns. If you post about me, it must be factual. I keep records. Send. Close. Atlas booked the City Museum's centennial. 12-table donor dinner on the marble mezzanine with a suspended light grid and a timed reveal of a restored bronze. I walked the floor plan with my logistics captain, Reese, and the union steward, Maria. Loads. 2 box trucks, 1 sprinter, all docked before 15 ice. Generators staged, but quiet. Radios on Channel 3, Channel 2 for back of house. If a mic dies, strings fill 3 minutes, kitchen resets the fire. Tight, clean, boring, my favorite. Day of at the museum, a known photographer showed with a crew of 5 and a tripod like a fishing pole. He wanted stage power his contract didn't include. I pointed to the clause, then to the gaffer's box. You get 2 Edison circuits. Anything else, you rent through us. He tried Charm. I handed him a square reader. Charm bounced off receipts. At 6:02 p.m., a black coupe parked illegally on the ramp, and a woman stepped out in neckline and attitude. Sloan. Same lacquered smile, new ring that looked leased. She lifted her phone the way influencers lift a scepter. "We're here for content." "You're blocking freight," I said. "Move the car or HPD writes it for you." "I know the director," she said. "So do I said. He signed my check. Security stepped in. Harborview black jacket, cap low. Calvin. He didn't look at me. He addressed Sloan like any guest. "Ma'am, I can escort you to valet or to the public gallery. This area's restricted." "Cal," she said, like a hook she expected would sink. He didn't blink. She flared, filmed, then chose valet. We cleared the ramp. That's a win. Inside, chefs were plating the amuse when the mezzanine lights pulsed wrong. The dimmer rack hiccuped. Reese called it in. "Power spike, east wall. Kill the riser wash. Keep aisle pearls. Bring up pocket LEDs," I said into my mic. "Quartet to bar 2, soft cover." And the strings rose as if we'd planned it. I walked to the dimmer bay, saw a loose neutral lead, flagged with tape by no one on my crew. I looked at the museum tech. He turned a color I've only seen on raw shrimp. "Fix it," I said. He did. We were back inside 90 seconds. Guests called it atmosphere. We called it Tuesday. At 8:20, a donor used the mic stand like a cane and snapped it. We swapped in the spare, cut the speech by 20 seconds, and landed the bronze reveal on the note. Checklists exist to make luck unnecessary. After dessert, Sloane reappeared in the public gallery and tried to push past stanchions for a behind-the-scenes scan. Calvin blocked clean, palms open. "Not your room," he said. She slid the barbed line in like always. "No wonder your mother doesn't sit with family." He didn't take it. He didn't even look toward me. He turned her toward the exit, handed her off to valet, and walked his perimeter. I logged the incident, time-stamped it, filed it under online attempted. No adrenaline, just paper. Next morning, a private message arrived from Meredith's assistant, phrased like velvet and legal pads. "Mrs. Pierce would like to extend a personal apology in writing." I forwarded it to my attorney with a note. "Draft a one-paragraph acknowledgement that includes the cuffs recovery and a statement retracting the public insinuation from the Whitfield Club. No adjectives, no nostalgia. Deliver by courier." Carol delivered. Meredith signed. I filed the original in Pierce Law and a copy in Atlas's risk drawer. Calvin texted a photo of a schedule. Nights, 2 weekends, 1 floating day. Stable hours. Meeting a sponsor tomorrow. 18 months, 1 week. A second text. "I won't use your name." Third, "I know the rule on kids. If they ask, I'll tell them you're working nights. If you decide otherwise, I'll wait for your time." Noted. I did decide otherwise, on my terms. Saturday, 10 a.m., Main Street Diner. 1 hour, no money talk. I messaged both grandkids directly. Teenagers respect instructions more than speeches. They arrived with hoodies and caution. I ordered pancakes. They got eggs. We used names and please and thank you, and every plate got paid by the person who ordered it. At the end, I slid each a business card I'd printed overnight. 3 rules. Love isn't money. Budgets are boundaries. Keep your hands open, never raised. They tucked the cards into their phones. I paid for my coffee and tip. No lectures. They left with their heads up. On Tuesday, the museum director called to book Atlas for the winter gala. "Your crew works like a clock," he said. "Also, whoever your security lead was out front. Professional." I made the note, said thank you, and didn't provide a referral. Favor economy stays clean by staying small. Then Meredith tried one more move. Soft focus post about mending fences with a photo of a diamond cuff resting on an open palm that wasn't mine. Carol sent a courtesy email. Implied defamation. See attached signed retraction. Please correct. The post vanished in an hour. I filed the takedown with a sticky. If they go public, we go paper. Atlas rolled on. A biotech launch at the Arboretum. A law firm merger dinner where I hid the rival partners on opposite arcs of the room and let the quartet erase their edges. A private memorial where we timed the bell to the second the widower touched the frame. Clean, quiet, paid. Late Friday, Calvin asked for 10 minutes at a neutral place. Security office lobby, glass walls, cameras, no privacy to weaponize. I agreed. He showed his scheduler, his chip, his sponsor's number, and a simple line. "I know I can't ask for the past. Can I send you a monthly data text? Just status? No answers required." I considered. "Yes," I said. "Data only. If you stray once, it stops." He nodded like a man signing a contract. When the winter gala load-in hit, a windstorm rolled through and knocked street power 3 blocks down. Our generators hummed like factory cats. The uplights held, and donors toasted the cozy glow. I raised 2 fingers. Reese closed the dock door against the gust. Maria filed the union hours without a dispute. We struck in 85 minutes and rolled out with the marble cleaner shining like ice. At home, I wrote a fresh card and slid it beside the others. Appointments, not drop-ins. Evidence, not emotion. Apologies in writing, not in rooms. Kids may visit, adults earn it. I'm Judith Mason. I don't chase reconciliation. I schedule outcomes. If you bring me data, I'll read it. If you bring me drama, I'll hand you a sign. Weight limit posted. Cross it right or turn around. The room still runs, the lights still rise, and the ledger still lands on zero. Part 3. 2 weeks later, the city's Heritage Ball landed on my desk. Venue, the Whitfield Club. The same ballroom where Meredith staged her accusation, and Calvin's hand landed. I circled the address in red, then called their GM, Baron Lake. Atlas Meridian will produce the Heritage Ball, I said. Conditions: dedicated dock access, written apology for your staff's conduct 8 years ago, and a comp suite for my command post. No apology, no show. He tried the usual deflection. Different management, different era. Until I read him the line item where security rifled my purse without probable cause. Silence. By 4 p.m., an email arrived. Formal apology on letterhead, signed by Baron and their new head of security, plus the suite on the mezzanine. I printed it, filed it under Whitfield law, and locked the booking. Prep ran hot. Reese built a rigging plot that kept our trust totals under the club's ancient beam rating. Maria negotiated union hours to 10:45 p.m. hard stop, penalties pre-approved. I wrote the call sheet in 10-minute blocks, all the way to 11:20, last crate through dock, 11:30, dock locked. Midweek, a blog post popped. Anonymous source claims gala producer, bullied bride's mother. The blurry cuff photo again. Sloane's fingerprints were all over the adjectives. Carol sent a 3-sentence note, attached the signed retraction from Meredith, CC'd the platform's legal. Post gone by lunch. I added a tab in the binder. Blogger, takedown. Names make people behave. PDFs make them sit down. Calvin's data-only text arrived Friday. Promoted to shift supervisor. Sponsor verified. Then a second line. Working Whitfield exterior on the ball. If you want me reassigned, say. I didn't. Do your post, I replied. Eyes up, hands open. Load-in day, 07:10. Our sprinters stacked at the Whitfield dock like chess pawns. House captain tried to wedge a florist van between our trucks. I stepped into the lane. Not today, I said, and pointed to the schedule taped to the dock door with my initials across it. He backed out. Paper beat swagger. Inside, the ballroom was a memory ghosted with new paint. I paced it once, counted outlets, checked the house dimmers, still cranky, and set the command post in the comp suite. Radios charging, contract copies in a labeled stack, first aid kit, a bowl of safety pins. Reese taped the stage marks. Maria laid gaffer on every cable like she was sealing letters. At 3:12 p.m., a florist assistant tripped a breaker with an unauthorized steamer. The house dimmed, staff gasped. I keyed my mic. Proceed to Plan B. Runner lights on, strings up, steamer off. Power returned in 90 seconds. The quartet slid into a cover that sounded intentional. Florals finished with towels. No drama, only adjustments. At 5:02, an unfamiliar security company tried to swap interior posts with Harborview at the front steps. Baron's miscommunication. Calvin stepped forward. Neat uniform. Supervisor badge clean. Per the venue memo, we hold perimeter. Inside his house. We keep our lane. He said it calm and correct. The other crew shrugged and drifted to valet. I logged it under contact log. Boundary kept. Guests began at 6 thats. Emeralds, tuxedos, the usual sparkle. I stayed at the mezz bar, checking the room's pulse while the quartet hit their cues. Then came Meredith in smoke-gray satin, her diamond river dimmed to a stream. She paused at the threshold when she saw me behind the host stand. Recognition is a muscle. Hers twitched. "Ms. Mason," she said, measured. "Mrs. Pierce," I answered, clipped. "Your table is 12. Your place card includes a QR code for your pledge." She glanced at the room as if it belonged to her, then back. "This looks impeccable." "It is," I said. "Enjoy your evening." She didn't try a speech. Good. I had a program to run. 7:40, the mayor botched his intro and said, "Heritage Ball 20th," when it was the 35th. I signaled the prompter, slid a new card, and he corrected without knowing he'd been saved. 8:05, the auctioneer was running hot, pushing items too fast. I cued the stage manager to drop his monitor volume by 2 decibels and handed him water during a applause swell. He reset his tempo, and paddles rose in smoother waves. We hit our mark, 5.6 million pledged by 9 crime. Then the room tried to make a scene. Sloan slipped into the mezz strip with a videographer and started directing a walk and talk in my aisle. "Quick quote from the producer who bullied a mother," she said, loud enough for her camera but not for the PA. I stepped into frame, my badge centered. "Ma'am, filming here requires a permit," I said. "Also, you're trespassing. This is a working corridor." She angled the mic anyway. "So no comment on abusing your power." "Here's comment," I said, and lifted the folder. "Your mother's signed retraction regarding the cuff. Your own post this week that vanished after council wrote you. And this, Whitfield's apology for their staff misconduct 8 years ago." I didn't wave them. I opened each to the signature page and held them just long enough the lens could catch the names, not the text. "You're on private property. You're done." Sloan reached for the papers. Calvin arrived from the stairwell like a shadow with a badge. "Hands open, Ms. Pierce," he said quietly. "Exits this way." She looked between us, paper and procedure, 2 people who weren't coming apart, and she calculated. "You'll hear from my lawyer," she said. "I'll file the footage request now," I answered, "and the trespass notice." She left under her own power. The videographer mumbled an apology and followed. I slid the documents back into sheet protectors, taped the mezz line with a strip labeled "No Filming," and went back to my mark. On the floor, no one knew anything had happened. That's production. Meredith found me at the end when the band switched to standards. "I signed your courier letter," she said. "It was overdue." "It was," I said. "We're square. If," she started, and then chose a different door. "Good night, Ms. Mason." "Good night," I said, and meant only those 2 words. Strike flew. Linens bagged by 10:12. Glass racked by 10:22. Stage struck at 10:29. Last crate rolling at 11:18. Dock shut 11:30, as written. I signed off on hours, tipped the house porter, who found a guest's brooch under a chair, and left the ballroom with the lights at 30. Soft enough to remember, bright enough to sweep. At home, Calvin's data pinged. Handled mezz intrusion per policy. No contact outside role. Sponsor co-signed incident report. Attached, a snapshot of the report with times, initials, and a clean description. I replied, "Received." Then I printed the report and filed it under Whitfield Incidents with my own note. Cowardice bends. Procedure stands. Monday, Barron called. "Your crew is the first in a decade to load out without a scratch on our mill work," he said. "Also, I heard about the mez. Thank you for keeping my lobby out of the gossip rags." "That's what the kit is for," I said. "We don't make scenes. We make cues." 2 new inquiries hit the inbox by noon. One from a university looking to turn their dull endowment dinner into something donors talk about. One from a hospital foundation that heard about our silent strike. I answered both with the same packet. Process, pricing, references. Not a single photo of me. Calvin's next data text contained a line I didn't expect. "I've been assigned to a youth center on Tuesdays, teaching de-escalation to volunteers. I used the hands-open line. Credited you by title only." Noted. I added a new card to the drawer. "Film your work, not your wounds. Never argue on the internet. Couriers beat comments. If a room wronged you, own it later by running it better. I'm Judith Mason." I walk back into rooms that tried to swallow me and lay down tape lines they follow. I don't ask for apologies twice. I collect them once on paper, then I move the night forward. If you test me, I don't raise my voice. I raise the weight limit sign and watch who turns around. The rest cross clean. The ledger holds. The lights go out on time. Part 4. The museum called on a Monday. Gala Plus. Naming ceremony. 80 donors. 2 trustees who hate each other. 1 priceless loaner exhibit under armored glass. I took the contract and stapled a rider on top. My crew controls back of house. Museum guards own vitrines. Harborview handles exterior. 3 signatures, 3 radios, 1 chain of custody log. Load-in week, I walk the galleries with facilities. Marble floors mean felt sliders. Up lights at 20% to keep heat off canvases. No tape on limestone. Only weight and wedges. I wrote the call sheet down to the minute. 6:02 doors, 6:17 champagne queue, 7:04 remarks, 7:22 paddle raise, 8:10 reveal curtain on the donor wall. No toasts longer than 90 seconds. My pen doesn't do rambling. The lender required a security rehearsal around the vitrine. I brought Calvin's team into the main hall at 3:30. "Roots?" I asked. He traced with his palm. 2 cones around the case, hands open, no touch. If someone leans, we pivot, not grab. We practiced 3 passes. The youngest guard bobbled his radio. Calvin corrected him without barking. I logged it. Drill passed. 3 reps, incident 0. At 5:08 p.m., the trustee liaison slid up with a smile that never reached her eyes. "Small change," she said. "Pierce family insists their videographer get close coverage of the donor reveal. They say you've been difficult." "Not difficult," I said. "Exact. Show me his permit." She didn't have one. Of course she didn't. 5 minutes later, the videographer showed a familiar lens and an unfamiliar badge. He tried to flash a Pierce Foundation lanyard like it meant jurisdiction. It didn't. "Stand at the press mark," I told him, pointing to the tape square 8 feet from the wall. "Break my line, you're out." 6:02. Doors on time. The atrium swallowed the chatter the way good rooms do. A quartet floated Shostakovich at a whisper. Our servers ghosted through with trays at 90 degrees and fingers invisible. Meredith arrived in navy with a cluster of diamonds at her ear and kept her eyes low. Sloane came with a new jawline and a camera shadow. A security volunteer whispered her name into a sleeve. Calvin answered, "Seen," and posted a rover on the mez rail. At 6:41, a touring child brushed a velvet rope near the vitrine. A guard overreacted and took a step too deep. Calvin's fingers tapped too, and he reset the formation like it was choreo. The case didn't even hum. The mother mouthed, "Thank you." No one wrote a think piece. We wrote a line in the log. Rope contact. Formation held. 7:04. Remarks. The director read my card verbatim and didn't ad-lib. Bless him. 7:22. Paddle raise. Paddles rose like wheat in a wind. The tally climbed. We hit the goal early. I built a soft plateau with a string swell to keep donors from peaking too soon. They stayed in the pocket. 8:09. The reveal curtain rig clicked into its pocket. "Stand by. Reveal," I said. 3, 2, curtain. The cloth fell clean. The polished brass letters gleamed. Mason Wing, Conservation Lab. No one clapped louder than the restorers in lab coats. They know who pays for proper solvents. The Pierce videographer broke his mark to rush the letters. Calvin intercepted without touching. "Back to tape," he said. The lens fishtailed. Sloane hissed. She tried to slide past him with a statement for her followers. I stepped in and laid a clear sheet over the donor wall with 4 magnets. It showed the schedule, the sponsors, the donor policy, the press rules, signatures at the bottom, including hers from the RSVP packet she pretended not to read. "You signed this," I said. "Press mark or exit." She pivoted to the old cord. "You vanished for years after humiliating us," she said, teeth bared in a smile. "You confused silence for surrender," I answered. "My signature is on the wall. Yours is on a policy." She opened her mouth for a louder play. Meredith pressed 2 fingers to Sloane's wrist and shook her head. They moved back to tape. I didn't gloat. I checked the time, 8:17, and cued dessert spoons. When the donors drifted to the study gallery, Calvin asked for 2 minutes in the staff corridor. Radio on, hands visible, supervision present. I nodded. We stood under exit signage that hums when you're tired. "Ava turns 15 next week," he said. "She asked if she could see you. Just her and her brother. Public place. Their idea." "Terms," I said, flat. "Main Street Diner. Booth near the window. Sunday at 11:30. No money, no gifts. I sit outside on the bench. They sit with you. 30 minutes. That's a plan," I said. "Tell them to bring school IDs. We don't do surprises." "Thank you," he said, and didn't try to add anything else. He's learning. Remove the hooks. Lead with logistics. Back in the hall, a trustee detoured toward the vitrine with a champagne flute. "No drinks near glass," a guard said. She bristled. "I'm on the board." "Ma'am," I said, "gravity doesn't read titles." I swapped her flute for water and pointed her to the donor lounge. She went. The guard exhaled. I added another line to the log. Board compliance achieved without tears. Strike started at 9:41. We rolled cable the way rope wants to roll, counted forks into racks by tens, and turned the atrium from gala to blank room in 90 minutes. The museum registrar signed our condition sheet. No scratches, no tape residue, humidity stable, case seals intact. I keep sheets like that the way other people keep diplomas. Sunday, 11:25. I beat the kids to the diner and picked a booth with a line of sight to the door and back exit. Calvin took the bench outside with a coffee and no eye contact. Ava and her little brother, Milo, came in with their school lanyards hanging like passports. "IDs on the table," I said. They smiled. They were ready. We ordered pancakes and black coffee and milk. No syrup lecture, no history lesson. We traded schedules, classes, the names of the shop teachers who still bark. I slid a postcard across the table. My rules printed on the back in 14 point. I don't lend money. I don't buy phones. I answer calls on Sundays from 3 to 3:10 p.m. only. If you're with me, you're safe and on time. Milo traced the bullet points and nodded like he was reading a map. Ava asked one question that mattered. Can I list you as an emergency contact for my job at the bookstore? I said yes, and wrote the store's number in my pocket notebook. Paper before promises. Calvin never came inside. When the kids trotted out at exactly 32 minutes, he stood and let them talk first. Good. Ava hugged me quick in the shadow of the awning. See you Sunday, she said. The sentence had no hooks. It had clocks. Monday brought Pierce paper, a demand for access letter from a firm with more marble than clients. Carol called it a balloon. Big, loud, empty. We answered with our own packet, their signed press policy, the museum's incident log, the foundation's donor agreement, and a letter reminding them that tortious interference with charitable fundraising carries consequences. We sent it certified, overnight, with tracking numbers. People who live online forget that mail leaves tracks you can't delete. 2 weeks later, Meredith requested a private meeting, neutral ground, a law office conference room. I accepted and brought Carol. Meredith came without counsel, which told me she'd rehearsed. She slid a small square box across the table. Inside, the photograph of Calvin at 6 I'd left on a linen the night I disappeared. The edges were crisp. She'd kept it flat. I found it in a file, she said. It should be with you. Agreed, I said, and closed the lid. Then I placed my own envelope on the table. Her signed cuff retraction, a duplicate copy for her records. This should be with you, I said, so the truth can't be misplaced. She exhaled. You don't need anything from me. I needed exactly 2 things, I said. Paper and distance. I've got both. She nodded once, like a metronome tick. You run a room like a court. I run rooms, I said. Courts run courts. We left it there. No absolution. No drama. The guard at the elevator didn't even look up when we passed. That's how I like exits. Ava's Sunday calls started hitting at 3:01 and ended at 3:09. Weather, algebra, whether a cardigan counts as business casual at a bookstore. I answered everyone on speaker with the timer running where we both could see it. Boundaries you can see are boundaries kids can trust. I added a new card to the drawer. Put your name on walls that do work, not walls that echo. Teach protocols before forgiveness. Meet grandchildren at the booth, not the bank. Keep every sheet with a signature. It outlives gossip. I'm Judith Mason. I don't chase apologies. I build procedures that make them unnecessary. If a family tries to turn a gala into a stage, I turn the lights down and switch the camera off. If a son shows up with terms instead of tears, I listen. If kids show up with IDs and clocks, I order pancakes. The ledger stays balanced. The glass stays uncracked. The night ends on time. Part 5. The lodge sat on a ridgeline with air thin enough to make egos quiet. 3-day venture retreat. 12 funds, 20 founders, NDAs thicker than the pines. Atlas Meridian ran everything. Badges, bags, bandwidth. I wrote the protocol like a flight manual. Arrival day. Devices surrendered at check-in, sealed in Faraday pouches with tamper strips and serials. We issued loaner flip phones preloaded with only the concierge number. NDAs scanned, logged, and watermarked with the hour. Kitchen on 24-hour rotation. Protein-heavy breakfasts, broth cups after midnight, zero alcohol until the closing dinner. People make better deals sober. Harborview secured the perimeter. Calvin took lead. Clean clipboard, straight shoulders, no wobble. I walked him the perimeter map. North Service Road, South Fire Trail, East Helipad, West Overlook. Choke points here and here, I said. If someone tries to film, you don't argue intent. You enforce policy. He nodded. Copy. Phone table is a no-fly zone. At 3:12, the first venture partner tried to slip a smartwatch past the desk. The concierge shook her head. Calvin tapped the glass case. The partner surrendered it without drama. Good. At 4:07, a founder's publicist called the main line asking about light content capture. I sent the same sentence I send to everyone. This is a closed environment. Publish nothing. Attend everything. Night 1 went by the numbers. Off the record circle in the timber hall. My moderator steering like a tugboat. No humble brag monologues, no slide decks, answers under 90 seconds. At 9:40, snow started. Pretty to look at. Deadly to ignore. I moved the morning hike to the old sawmill loop and pinged ops to salt the boardwalks at 6. Trouble walked in, wearing a floral parka and a vendor badge that didn't belong to her. Sloan, hair shorter, eyes hungrier. She complimented my scarf like we were neighbors meeting at a mailbox. Her cameraman lagged 10 paces with a mirrorless and a gimbal under a coat. Badge, I said. She flashed, AV, Riverside Media. Riverside isn't on my manifest, I said. And your badge is pressed at a different die lot. I lifted the lanyard. The hologram pattern was wrong by 2 millimeters. I don't miss patterns. She tried charm. Quick sizzles for a private client, Judith. Closed campus, I said. Hand over the camera and your badge, then follow security to your car. Cameraman balked. Calvin stepped into his lane, palms open, stance square. This is private property. You're trespassing. We'll escort you out, or sheriff's office will. Sloan calculated. The snow picked up. She chose the warm car. We logged the incident. I emailed Carol the brief and flagged the lodge GM to blacklist Riverside. I don't rant. I remove access. Morning brought a pipe issue. Kitchen dish pit steam tripped a smokehead. The alarm panel chirped, and strobe reflected off copper pots. My radio's lit. Hold evac, I said. Origin dish station. Confirm no fire. The steward cracked the head box. No heat signature. Sprinkler technician, on call, was already rolling. I split the traffic. Calvin took the front lobby to keep guests calm. I rerouted breakfast to the west veranda and rolled out thermoses and scones like we had planned it that way. 10 minutes later, panel reset, a single drip bucket placed, no soggy suits. We stayed on schedule. By lunch, a rumor floated that a blogger would publish leaks from the retreat. Sloane's fingerprints. Carol executed a template I keep for this. Notices to platforms citing contractual NDAs, screenshots of posted signage, a draft TRO ready to file with the county clerk. We sent copies to the lodge, the fund's council, and the blogger's host. The post died before it lived. I archived every timestamp. Calvin asked for a 2-minute check-in by the woodpile. Ava's bookstore manager needs an emergency contact form signed in person, he said. Sunday, she'll bring it to the diner. You can read, not rewrite. Bring 2 copies, I said. Black ink. I won't be the first number. I'll be the third. Understood. He didn't defend. He didn't explain. He just executed. Progress is quiet. Closing night. Still snowing, but we'd salted every approach. I ran the dinner like an ops drill. Seatings in 5-minute waves, plates landing hot. No speeches over 3 minutes. The fun chair asked me to name the local search and rescue for the donation match. I had their tax letter on my phone and the QR already printed on the back of the menus. Match blew past target. The SAR captain cried into a cloth napkin and tried to apologize for it. I told him to keep the napkin. At 10:11, a black SUV idled at the gate. Not on my list. The driver refused to present the manifest. The passenger cracked the window and said, "We're press." Calvin didn't blink. "Our press area is the county road," he said, pointing downslope. "You can park there." They left. He logged plate, time, direction of travel. That's how grown men work. Facts, not flair. Sunday, 11:28, the diner booth. Calvin stayed outside. Ava slid in with Milo and a form. She had her own pen. I checked the employer field, the emergency list, the consent line. "You sign here," I said. "I sign here." 30 seconds, 2 signatures, witnessed by a waitress with a pencil behind her ear. No extra page, no speech. Contract done. Ava ordered the grilled cheese this time and asked a single pointed question. "Can you look at my 1-page resume?" She handed me paper. Margins clean, verbs active, typos 0. She had listed cash handling, end-of-day counts, shelf plan resets. It read like a person who knows work, not fantasy. "Good," I said. Add, "arrived on time for every shift," and move "swept stockroom" under closing procedures. That's a system, not a chore. She grinned. "Systems are my love language." She's bilingual. Milo slid me a library permission slip for a field trip. Black ink, both sides, no memes. I signed where the arrow sticker pointed. That boy will run warehouses by 22. On Tuesday, Sloan tried a fresh angle. An open letter accusing gatekeepers of silencing community storytellers. She tagged Atlas Meridian and 3 clients. We posted nothing. Carol sent one note to her hosting provider with the attachments from the lodge, plus the trespass log and the badge discrepancy photo. The post vanished. I added 3 new lines to our standard vendor contract. Hologram spec, die lot reference, criminal trespass warning in 16-point type. We enforce rules. We don't negotiate them in comments. Meredith requested a single seat at an upcoming donor luncheon. No entourage, no remarks. I granted it with conditions. Arrive on time, sit at table 8, clap when appropriate, leave quietly. She complied. I marked it "no incident" in the log and shredded nothing. Paper is memory that doesn't lie. I updated the card in my desk. No phones in closed rooms, pouches and cereals, or no entry. Don't shout at trespass. Document, escort, ban. Solve alarms with food and routes. Sign only where the arrow points. I'm Judith Mason. I run cold rooms in warm ways. If someone arrives with a camera and a fake badge, they leave with an escort and a log entry. If a son stands steady at a gate and uses his inside voice, he keeps his post. If grandkids bring forms and clocks, they get pancakes and signatures. The bridge signs stay posted. The ledgers stay squared. The night, even in a snowstorm, ends on time. Part 6. They served me papers at 8:07 a.m. Reception called up, voice flat. Process server. Envelope. Pierce v. Atlas Meridian. Plaintiff Sloan Pierce claims of business interference and blacklisting media. Demanded damages and a grovel. I photographed every page, sent them to Carol with 4 attachments: the forged badge photo, the trespass log, the non-disclosure signage, the incident report with plate numbers. Carol texted one line: "Anti-slap. Hearing in 10 days. Keep your logs warm. Same morning, Meredith emailed. Subject: a private correction. She wanted a meeting. I gave her terms: public place, daylight, 15 minutes, recorded on my phone. She brings a signed statement acknowledging the cuff was found in her car and that her accusation at the Whitfield Club was false. She arrived at the conservatory cafe with a cream envelope and a trembling hand. She read my 3 sentences out loud, signed again, date and time. I slipped the paper into a hard sleeve and said, "This won't go online. This goes in a drawer." She nodded. No hugs, no theatrics. The cappuccino went cold. We shifted focus to the governor's innovation dinner. Museum atrium, glass roof, donors who like seeing their names on sandstone. My call sheet was a grid tight enough to tune a piano. 2 redundant generators staged on the loading dock. Battery uplights racked and labeled in rows. Comms checked on 3 channels: front of house, kitchen, security. Harborview took inside. State police handled perimeter. Calvin got interior lead. Coat check to stage left. Gala doors to sculpture hall. Stage wings to dock. At 5:42, a vendor tried to sneak a +1 through the freight elevator. Seating counts told on him. My floor captain flagged me. Calvin intercepted. Ushered the extra to the street without a speech. The vendor apologized to the wrong person. I told him the right words. We will not be hiring you again. At 7:08, the atrium lights flickered. A transformer hiccuped 3 blocks away. Museum power blinked, every face tilted up like a field of satellite dishes. I didn't look up. I moved. Battery to aisle, orchestra acoustic, kitchen hold plates, I said over comms. Battery uplights pulsed alive. The quartet slipped into a Strauss waltz without amplification. Guests thought it was a planned effect. The chair leaned over and whispered, "Charming." On the dock, the generator tech yanked the choke and brought our backup online. 8 minutes later, house power returned. We resumed service with soup still hot and donors none the wiser. I logged the time code and ordered the tech a plate of short rib. Sloan arrived anyway, dressed as guest of a guest. Different wig, same posture. Seating scan pinged a mismatch at table 14. 1 card cloned, name spelled wrong by a letter. She walked toward the glass doors, just in time to see Calvin close them. He didn't touch her. He didn't raise his voice. Private event. Your host is welcome. You are not. She tried to film. He pointed at the pouch station. Phones are sealed in this room. Policy applies at the threshold. She backed up, flicked her wrist at me like she was shooing a fly, and disappeared into taxicab red lights. I added, attempted entry thwarted, to the Sloan file and returned to the dessert placement. By 9:20, we had the paddle raise humming. I called the numbers. The museum lit the donor wall. The chef sent out chocolate domes like small planets. The governor shook my hand, said, "Smoothest gala in 5 years," and then forgot my name. That's the job. I don't need his memory. I need the ACH confirmation. 2 days later, court. Sloan strutted in with glossy hair and a mouth that can turn a hallway into a podcast. Carol set 2 binders on counsel's table. Facsime and forgeries. The judge read our motion, asked one question. Ms. Pierce, do you deny entering with a fraudulent credential? Sloan went on about creative documentation. The judge cut her off. Anti-slap granted. Case dismissed with prejudice. Fees awarded to us. Carol slid me a small smile. I told her to route the entire fee award to the Pediatric Oncology Fund the summit supported. We emailed Sloane's counsel, the receipt with the subject line, "Your client just funded chemo chairs." No exclamation mark. I don't need punctuation to make a point. At Atlas, I built a new drawer labeled Pierce. Into it went the signed correction, the dismissal order, the fee receipt, the trespass logs. I locked it. Some drawers stay closed unless the law asks. Calvin kept stacking clean days. Harborview promoted him to training lead for new hires. He requested to shadow our dock ops on a loadout, off the clock, for knowledge. I told him what time forklifts roll and where toes get crushed. He showed up in steel toes and stood out of the way until asked. He learned hand signals from Manny like a language. Ava texted, "Interview Friday. Bookshop chain. Can you do a 15-minute mock over FaceTime?" I gave her exactly 15. 3 questions, 1 behavioral, 1 with numbers, 1 about handling a late shipment. She answered like a person who pays attention. I told her to send a thank you email with 1 statistic from the company's last press release incorporated into a sentence. She did. Saturday, she sent me a photo of a name tag with her name on it. I printed it and taped it behind the pantry door next to the letter releasing me from Calvin's old mortgage. Not trophies, proof. Meredith attempted politeness in public. A mailed note with gratitude for your stewardship and a separate donation to search and rescue in my name. I wrote the organization a real thank you and sent Meredith a receipt. Nothing more. Neutral is a temperature I can live with. The next job. Harbor Summit. Arena conversion in 48 hours, 4,000 chairs, a center stage, 12 breakout rooms, 2 freight elevators that like to sulk. I split the floor into quadrants and assigned captains. We wrote a rain plan and a rain plan for the rain plan. City permitted pyrotechnics for the opener. I told the producer to choose confetti instead. The fire marshal shook my hand. On load-in day, a man I hadn't seen in decades walked onto my floor with a contractor badge. Calvin's father, Joel. Salt hair, a carpenter's belt, the same grin that never paid a bill. He froze when he saw me. Calvin saw him a half-second later. You don't plan those collisions. You manage them. Joel started with an apology aimed at the middle distance. I kept him pointed at work. You're here to hang drape. Here's the line. Here are the measurements. If you finish early, load your tools and clock out. If you bring family business into my arena, you leave. He nodded, quiet like he should have been 40 years ago. Calvin asked for a 10-minute break. He got 5. They used 3. No voices, no scene. Joel's drape line hung straight. His exit was cleaner than his entrance. I logged his badge as 1 day only, no reissue without approval. The arena show ran like a train yard. Confetti didn't trip the alarms. The CEO hit his mark and said what we scripted him to say. A teenager from a robotics team lifted a prosthetic hand before an audience of people who sign wires to the future, and nobody filmed him without permission. That's how you make rooms where kids aren't props. At 2:03 a.m., we hit the final sweep. Calvin found a diamond stud under Section 118. He bagged it with a Sharpie label and brought it to Lost and Found. No hero pose, just a bag and a logbook. 10 years ago, that earring would have made a social media post. Tonight it made a line item. When the dust settled, I updated the card on my desk. If you want revenge, win court and donate the check. If you want closure, get it in writing and shelve it. If you want quiet, run a perfect loadout. If somebody reappears from a past you outgrew, assign a task or a door, not a story. Calvin asked for one concession. Ava's graduation in June. Can you sit 2 rows behind us? Aisle seat, no photos, no program notes. He didn't say please. He didn't have to. He'd earned the ask. 2 rows behind, I said. I clap when the room claps. I'm out with the traffic. He nodded. Copy. Sloane went quiet. Meredith stayed on time. Joel returned to wherever men like Joel go when they aren't swinging a hammer. Atlas moved on to a hospital foundation build with a helicopter on the lawn and a wind index that made linens into kites. We staked every table like a tent and served dinner hot with wind at 20 knots. People think wind is the enemy. Schedules are. On the way home, the red light at Harbor and 6th held me long enough to consider the next hard cut. The last room. I needed to walk. Whitfield Club, one time, on my terms. I don't haunt places, but some rooms deserve a walkthrough after you build a life that can afford to ignore them. I sent Carol a text. Book Whitfield's small ballroom for a staff appreciation breakfast. 7 to 9 a.m., off menu, no photos. She replied with a thumbs up and a date. One more card in the drawer, one more room to put in order. Then we close the bridge for maintenance and open a new road. The ledger stays balanced. The night ends on time. Part 7. Whitfield confirmed Tuesday. Small ballroom, 2 hours, early. I sent a lean brief. 30 staff, buffet, black coffee, orange juice, eggs, no speeches. Payment wired, insurance cert on file, load in at 6:15. Carol added one line to the contract. Access to archives room for 30 minutes, escorted. They initialed it. We rolled up in 2 vans while dawn cut the sky. My team moved like a drill. Linens down, sternos lit, chafers aligned, pastry towers built, name tags set by the door. I wore the same model beige suit I'd once borrowed from a consignment rack. New cut, my label, my fit. The catering captain asked about mimosas. Just coffee, I said. We earned caffeine. By 7:05, the small ballroom looked like respect. Our busser, Yan, laughed at Manny's fork count joke. My controller, Tasha, finally sat while someone else poured her a cup. I tapped a glass once. We don't do speeches, I reminded them. We eat, then we boo the traffic and leave. At 7-Eleven, the club manager slid in. New face, polished. Ms. Mason, per the writer, archives room. He led me down the same corridor where a lifetime pivoted. Ficus gone, carpet new, air the same. The archives door clicked. Boxes, ledger books, carbon copies, incident logs. He set a card in silence. I pulled volumes by date. 10 minutes, and there it was. Event. Pierce wedding. Incident. Reported missing jewelry. Follow-up sheet dated 48 hours later. Item located. Owner's vehicle console. No distribution listed. No apology letter recorded. A dead file. May I? I asked. He nodded. I photographed both sheets, front and back. I'd like a certified copy. We can notarize, he said. And, he swallowed. On behalf of the club, we regret how that night was handled. It's late, I said. But take the regret, put it on letterhead, and staple it to this file. Not for me, for the next person who opens a door that should have been closed 8 years ago. He nodded and scribbled an internal note. It'll be done. Back in the ballroom, my team cleaned plates and swapped coffee urns. I handed each person a plain envelope. Transit stipend, a day-off voucher, and a card with 3 lines. Early is on time. Quiet is power. We don't miss. We stacked plates, pulled linens, reset the room, and were out before the first board member demanded anything warm. I stood at the curb, watched our vans disappear into traffic, then walked once around the building. No ghosts, just brick, glass, and a valet lane that still feeds the morning. At the office, Carol's scan hit my inbox. Whitfield certification on the discovery, a note from the GM, a copy of their new incident protocol. No public accusation without law enforcement present. No bag searches without consent and manager oversight. Immediate record update if property is found. I stamped it, filed and slid it into the Apirstei. Drawer. Click. May arrived with checklists. We flipped a garage into a tasting hall, turned a ferry terminal into a lecture room, and built a rooftop wedding where napkins stayed put in 20-knot gusts because we clothespinned them from the underside. Clients called us magicians. We called it prep. Calvin texted, "Reminder, Ava graduation, June 10th, 2 rows behind, aisle seat, in and out." I blocked the hour and told Manny to run the dock if a truck arrived early. The ceremony was a sun-baked grid of folding chairs and mortar boards. I parked at the far lot, walked the long sidewalk, and found the aisle seat 2 rows back, left. Calvin sat with his row, pressed shirt, steady posture. He didn't turn. Good. The brass band blared. Names ran like a conveyor. When they said, "Ava Mason," she didn't stumble. She took the diploma, looked up to scan the horizon like a lighthouse, and kept moving. The clapping swelled, then thinned. I stood when the row stood. I left when the crowd left. Traffic swallowed us the way it swallows everyone. In the lot, a quick shadow, Ava, sprinting. She skidded to a stop, breathless, grinning, cap crooked. 2 rows back, she said, eyes bright. On the aisle, I said. She hugged in that new way. Fast, strong, no hooks. "I start full-time at the shop on Monday," she said. "They want me on receiving." "Numbers win, even in books," I said. "Stack spines face out, count twice." She laughed, then checked over her shoulder. "They're waiting. Thanks." She ran. I walked. The rules held. Sloan slipped back into the news stream with vacation photos and sponsored links. Meredith sent a clipped thank you to the museum chair and copied me. I replied with a sentence about linen counts and nothing else. Joel's name surfaced once on a subcontractor roster. I flagged the badge as escort required. He didn't return. Our next assignment was a hospital build-out that wanted a helicopter landing. We built the LZ with chalk and rope, flagged gusts, coordinated with flight, and added a plan if fog socked in the bay. It did. We went to Plan C. Ambulance parade, sirens silent, lights off. Guests never knew. The NICU named 3 incubators after anonymous donors. Anonymous is a language I speak fluently. That week, a thin envelope arrived. Whitfield's notarized letter, stamped. Amended. Atop the old event record, a manager's signature and a sentence that mattered. The club acknowledges the item was found and the prior suspicion was unfounded. No adjectives, no flourish. I Xeroxed one for the drawer and one for the pantry door, behind the mortgage release and Ava's name tag. Not trophies. Proof. Calvin sent a last message about the graduation. "Thank you for the aisle seat. No asks, just respect." I typed, "Noted Siru," and put the phone face down. The phone stayed quiet. That's not absence. That's discipline. On a humid Friday, A city inspector showed up unannounced at a pier install with a frown and a clipboard. He wanted permits I already had and tape lines I'd already painted. When he ran out of objections, he said, "It's rare to see a site this clean." "It's not rare," I said. "It's our standard." He signed. We loaded chairs. We finished on time. That night, I wrote one final card for the drawer. I don't haunt ballrooms. I book them. I don't chase apologies. I archive facts. I don't fix grown people. I fix timelines. If you hurt me in a room, the room will remember. On paper. I'm Judith Mason. I run crews, not crusades. I built a life with contracts and clocks, not speeches. If you enter my rooms, you'll get lights that rise when they should and doors that close when they must. You'll get coffee hot and exits clear. You'll get the truth. Once, private, documented. Bridges remain open with posted limits. Read the sign and cross. Ignore it and reroute. Either way, the night ends on time, the ledger balances, and we roll out quiet while the city sleeps. Final part. I don't do epilogues, I do loadouts. But some nights deserve a clean strike. 2 months after Whitfield amended their record, the city bid out the Harbor Gala. 5 venues, 1 night, moving parts like a rail yard. Atlas Meridian took the Prime Hall and the Plaza spillover. I wrote a 20-page run. Cranes, stagehands, barricades, thermal maps, wind thresholds, and a hard stop at 10:59 p.m., or we paid a 4-figure minute. By noon, tents were skinned, ballast chained, cable ramps taped, and the kitchens humming. We ran radio checks, redundancy checks, water breaks. I signed a stack of COIs and walked the perimeter. Security lead at the north gate. Calvin. Uniform pressed, posture squared. He nodded. I nodded back. No more. At 6:03, the donors started to flow. Sequins, black suits, shoes built for carpet, not cobblestone. I stationed at the dock like always, where problems arrive. Problem 1. A vendor from out of town tried to roll a van past the barricade without a placard. Calvin stopped him, de-escalated, redirected to Lot C, and texted me a photo of the plate for the log. No chest beating, just procedure. Problem 2. A ring of influencers edged toward the kitchen pass for content. My head server, Gail, told them politely to clear the lane. They didn't. I walked over with a tray jack and parked it in their shot, blocking the frame. Fire path, I said. They moved. I logged the time. Problem 3. A familiar face in emerald silk. Meredith Pierce stepped out of a town car with a new husband and the same posture. She clocked the stage, the lights, the branded step and repeat. She did not clock me. Fine. I saw her name on the donor scroll later and let it pass like any other. Doors opened, lights rose, strings hit the downbeat, and the room behaved. Silent service, synchronized pours, no glassware casualties. At 8:10 we rolled the pledge. The meter climbed. I watched hands, not faces. Commitment is emotion. On the plaza, a man in a linen jacket started a noise about missing cufflinks and pointed at our pastry runner like she'd stuck them in a tart. I was there in 20 seconds with Calvin at my shoulder and the floor captain on my other side. "Sir," I said, "you'll step with me to the service desk. We'll inventory your jacket on camera and check lost and found." He tried the old line. "I know the chair." "So do I said. "And the risk manager." He came. We opened a tray, laid down tissue, turned out pockets, and found the links in his interior pen sleeve. No apology. There never is. I took a photo, wrote, "Found on guest." across a pink incident slip and had him sign. Calvin watched the pen stroke. This record lives in 2 files, I said to no one in particular. Here, and with the venue. The rest of the night ran like a metronome. The headliner hit their mark. The wind stayed within our lines. We hit the 10:59 strike with a 3-minute buffer. Radios clicked to silent as teams coiled and crated. No injuries, no attrition, no PR fires. My kind of ending. Back at the office the next morning, I met with Carol. We finished the paperwork for a small fund I wanted. The back dock grant. $1,000 micro grants for hospitality workers when cars die, babysitters quit, or rent spikes threaten to topple a whole month. Quiet grants. Quick turnarounds. No photos. We seeded it with a percentage of 3 contracts and a check from me. Carol drafted bylaws. I signed them and set a quarterly review cadence. I also signed the vendor compact I'd been shaping since Whitfield. No public accusations on any floor we manage, ever. All loss reports go through a named manager with body cam or static camera review. Immediate amendments when items are found. And mandatory de-escalation refreshers for front-of-house leads. 15 venues and 6 caterers put ink on it. Standard replaces scandal. I like standards. Calvin's name crossed my desk twice that week, once on a fixture sign-off, once on a text to my dock chief about a barricade swap. Both were clean, both were brief. I sent back, received. That's all that was required. Ava dropped by the office on her lunch. She handed me a receipt for a used bike. $120 cash. 2 locks, no nonsense. Commute solved, she said. Bike lights? I asked. 2, she said. And a bell. Sound policy, I said, and slid across a folded index card I'd written the night before. Count change. Keep copies. Walk away from noise. She pocketed it like a tip and went back to work. I took one afternoon and drove to Cedar Ridge Cemetery with a thermos and a small tool bag. Aunt Marion's headstone needed a scrub. I leveled the soil, brushed the lettering, oiled the hinges on the little vase holder, and poured water. Your portfolio did what it needed, I said to the stone. It let me keep my spine. I left a single white carnation and a typed note in a plastic sleeve. I spent your money like a grown-up. The books are balanced. The rooms are run. On the way back, I stopped at the bungalow I'd closed on the week before. A 2-bedroom, single-story place with a magnolia that needed a winter prune. I carried in a toolbox, a set of labeled hooks, and one framed thing, the Whitfield Amendment, matted in cream. I hung it inside the pantry door behind the mortgage release, behind Ava's name badge, behind a photo of my team laughing in a loading dock at 2 a.m. Not a shrine, a ledger page. That evening, I wrote to Meredith. 1 line, formal. Mrs. Pierce, for your records, attached is the industry compact regarding loss protocols now in force across 15 venues. Consider it your seatbelt. J.M. She replied with 2 words. Acknowledged. Thank you. Good. Paper beats memory. Calvin sent one final message that quarter. 6 months on the Harborview schedule. No incidents. I coach Saturday rec ball. No reply needed. He knows the rule. Data, not drama. I archived it, then went to the dock to help Manny run a rope snake through a stubborn truss. We got it done in 9 minutes. I logged the time and the trick for the next call sheet. Before bed, I added the last card to the drawer. Lights up at 6:00. Vests on at 6:15. Doors at 6:45. No rescues, no revenge, just results. I'm Judith Judy Mason. I don't build stages to settle scores. I build them so the night lands exactly where it should. On time, under budget, with everyone upright and the truth on paper. Bridges are posted with weight limits. Crossings are earned. If you come through my doors, you'll find the coffee hot, the exits clear, and the rules visible. You'll hand respect across the table and get it back. And when the music stops and the house lights lift, my crew will glide in, count to the last fork, and roll the city back to quiet. That's not an ending. That's how I finish.